Welcome back. You were talking about setting aside emotions just before we went on break.
I think we need to agree with ourselves what we want to do. Do we want this economy to be a command economy where we control everything, or do we want it to be what had always been a sort of semi-capitalist economy? I mean, that determines and sets the template for the discussions that will come after that. Because if it's a command economy, we might as well shut the borders and know that we want to grow from inside. My concern here is that there will be pain either ways. Whether we float the naira, whether we don't float the naira, there will be pain. The question is, will that pain result to eventual gain, is what some of us are really concerned about. So for this policy, in terms of giving PTA to people paying school fees, is a fantastic scenario. But it is a small measure in a very huge problem. Are we just trying to make people feel good while we, window dress the main issues? Because the main issues are issues of transparency. Even Tokwe from Abuja was talking about, can we track transparency, issues of control. If I bring in my dollars into Nigeria, can I take it out a month after when I want to take it out? Those are the issues. If we do not solve those issues, these ones are just like, when the house is burning, you're asking about your pot of soup. So the issue is, until CBN fixes those issues, transparency and foreign portfolio investment will not return. And if we do not want foreign portfolio investment, then we now have to sit down again and ask ourselves, okay, how can we grow as a nation without the rest of the world? So how do we grow without needing the fancy dresses we buy from abroad? Then let's shut our borders and know that we are focusing on that. So this issue of speaking from both sides of the mouth, we don't want to do this, but at the same time we are not going to go this way. You get this or grow local issues. Local manufacturers, you need to ask all of them what they are going through at this particular point. Some of them are mischievous, but the ones that are even trying to do it. I mean, I always say this, I applaud Nigerian entrepreneurs. They are the superheroes of this economy because they're the ones still going out irrespective of what is going on and still trying to make ends meet. So if we want to close the borders, let's know we've closed the borders. But if we're not going to do that, then there are laws to economics that we should follow. If we're not going to follow it, then let's close. It's one of the two.
So the simple laws of economy is demand and supply, right?
End of story.
So demand and supply has caused our naira against the dollar to be that way. So now CBN's supplying and there's some level of return, sort of, okay? But the question now is how sustainable. And as Tokwe asked, and we're coming back to you, Tokwe, you asked the question, can this economy reboot itself? Would this policy in any way help the economy to reboot itself? I mean, manufacturing had gotten about 60% of Forex before this new policy came in. Did that in any way help the manufacturers? And do we still need to find a way of tracking how much had been given to the manufacturers?
Right. First, I think the policy will allow the economy to find its own level and to reboot itself. Okay, I mentioned, first of all, the generations of currency crisis and how it happens. Number one, thou shalt not fix your currency. Everybody seems to have understood that now. And we're moving to, I mean, the best you can do is something like a managed float, which for our kind of economy, this is not the U.S. economy, right? I mean, we're not that advanced. And we need to understand where we are, otherwise we'll be comparing like we don't like, So the second level says that don't talk down your currency. If you talk it down, it goes down. If you talk it up, it goes up. That's perception management. The third generation of currency crisis is what happened in Southeast Asia in the 1990s. And that's about the central bank or the federal government, guaranteeing loans in the financial sector, and also the issue of mismatch and all of that. So in this instance, we know where we stand. It's very important that the perception management is what went wrong in the last few months. By the time the government said, look, it's none of our business how you pay your school fees. We're not going to be paying school fees, and then we're not going to be giving you money. Everybody that needed to travel abroad needed to go to the black market. So the perception on the streets was that there was no dollar. And because of that, the black market kept going up. And then there existed a 200 naira premium between the two. And that premium resulted to a few people in Nigeria making spreads in between For example, if you wanted the money officially at 305, you say you're manufacturing, almost all those manufacturing companies had to pay huge premiums to people in order to even access the money at 305. So now all of that, anything that closes that gap for me is great. And the way to manage perception is to actually think about how do we fulfill those little demands on behalf of people. And the issue is BTA, the issue is school fees and so on, but the manufacturing sector ended up suffering. Now, the second issue is that 60% that was allocated to the manufacturing sector, a lot of that money, we couldn't actually be sure that actually that money actually came into the country, and that rather the equipment came into the country, because we had a lot of importation of equipment and a lot of importation of manufacturing requirements which did not quite reboot. And now we're given a situation where even the manufacturers will be able to get their monies cheaper because as a result of this policy. So that's what I'm about. The portfolio investors, I personally believe that we've done so much going after portfolio investors in the past. Even direct investors. This is one country where the federal government and every state governor goes abroad looking for these investors to come in here. And I believe that when you go like that, you're already selling yourself cheap. All right, if we organize ourselves properly in here, they're going to come and invest in this place. This is the same country where, as we're looking for those foreign investors, people are taking so much money out of the economy. All right, from the velocity of demand for the dollar from Nigeria is not commensurate with actually the economy and how it works. And lastly, I'll say that again, at 500 naira to the dollar, at 520 to the dollar, the Nigerian naira became one of the cheapest currencies in Africa. And if you say that Nigeria is actually the biggest economy in Africa, that does not jive, all right? So we need to know exactly what we're doing. I believe that we can buck the market. We can stare down the guys that are speculating on them. Speculation is part of the market, and I'm not for a control economy. I'm not for a command and control economy, as Moses said. Speculation is part of the market, all right? But there's a limit. But when speculation takes over the entire market, then you've got a problem, right? And I'm not for the command and control economy. I believe that the central bank should intervene once in a while, and predictability is not a virtue in this market. Okay. If they know where you're going, everybody is going to take position, and they're going to clean you out, okay. All right? But central bank is also part of the market. All Even in some of the developed economies, their central banks, they find ways of intervening through the banks, and you don't even have to know about it.
So we'll come back to you. We'll come back to you, Mr. Chizia. Now, this issue of the principles, again, back to the basic principles of economics, demand and supply. Now, we have multiple platforms, the parallel market, the official window, and all of that. Why do we have multiple platforms?
Okay.
Why should we even have that? And is that helping us in any way?
Okay, I think that it's important, first of all, that we clear this conversation with regard to, with this, what is happening now, reboot, the economy. Would it help us to exit the recession? I think it's very important. Now, let's go back a bit, put things in context. Between middle of 2016 and end of 2016, when we introduced the flexible approach, to managing the currency, that was when things suddenly went out of kilter, went haywire. Within 6 months, the rates, it was 197 on the official window. It went to 305. The parallel market rate was about 200 and went to 500 and something. And so most of the crisis we've had in this economy is because of the rate of exchange, primarily. Of course, we know that this great policy, to a large extent, had not kicked in. So we have budgets. We have budget 2016 is not being implemented. We at this point in time, we're talking about borrowing money to implement capital budgets in 2016 and 2017. So anything that will bring the rates down will reboot this economy. I am on record to have said that we would exit this recession this year. I stick out my neck and I say it. But there are conditions. Now we're having issues. I read in the papers yesterday that National Assembly, they're saying that the MDAs are not going to them to defend their budgets and so on and so forth, and we're going back to the vice president to now complain. And so there are issues. This is budget. The budget was supposed to be approved by about middle March, 18th of March. And they're saying it's not going to be possible again. So we're having lots of issues. Anything that will bring the rate of exchange down and keep it there for some time, central bank will have to prioritize that. And so, I say to us here Now, forget about to say I align with the man in Abuja. Portfolio investment, how much is that to this economy? I agree with Tokwe. We mustn't say that Tunji. I agree with Tunji that we shouldn't be reliant on one source. But that's the tragedy of this economy. And that's why we're talking about diversification of this economy.